Hello and welcome to the 7 Basics of Canvas here at CMC, and today we're going to be talking about quizzes. Now, quizzes are something we give in courses normally, but you have the option to add them to Canvas and have an electronic format that could possibly score all your questions for you automatically and post the grade to the gradebook within seconds of the student completing their assessment. So I'm going to show you a couple basics. If you have some quizzes in here already, this is what they would look like, but we're going to add a new quiz. And as usual, up in the top right, there's the add button that lets us put a new quiz in. And it's a fairly similar form that we've been using for other options within Canvas. In this case, I'm going to call this a week 6 quiz. And you can call it anything you want, but I like to organize mine in weeks, and it's just simpler for my purposes or my choice. We give some short quiz instructions. In this case, it's nothing too wild, but you can have some options that you may need to give information about. And I'm going to show you a few of the options down below. The first thing is the quiz type. In this case, I'm using a graded quiz. That's the most common one, but you can have practice quizzes, you can do surveys and different things like that. And the practice quizzes wouldn't necessarily count for points in their final grade where the graded would. Something else I like to do when I'm working with students maybe in a lab or with a lot of laptops or even online classes or hybrids is I'll go in and I'll shuffle the answers. That way if the students happen to take it early and another student takes it later, it helps to keep them honest. Another thing you can do to keep students somewhere on the honest side is set a time limit. If I'm going to have an hour-long class, I may make this for 60 minutes, and if anybody for some reason is trying to take longer than that, it'll stop them. Practice quizzes, you definitely want to allow multiple attempts, give them a chance to maybe hone their skills or retain information a little better, or you may not, but it's an option that's there. At least you can choose to do or not. Correct answers. A lot of times if I've got students all taking it at one time, and I know in an on-campus situation they're going to kind of learn from their test, I might show the correct answers right away, or I might wait and make sure that all the students had taken the test and then they can go back and view them. You don't have to choose any of these, it's a personal preference. The last one I really want to show is the show one question at a time. This is something that's very handy if you've got students that have bad connections or questionable connections to the internet, because it shows them one question at a time and it records and saves their information as they go through and they progress, so they don't have a chance to get kicked out as often. It keeps things fresh in there. It also is kind of nice where it shows one question at a time. If you got students looking, they can't really look over each other's shoulders easily because they're only going to see that one question instead of all of them. Another one I like to use, especially for labs, are require an access code. This might be something that the students can have access to it, but they can't log into it until they use that code. Filter IP address basically keeps one computer to take the test and it can't take it again, which if you have multiple sections, this can be a challenge. It may not be something you want to use if you're using the same lab over and over again. One I do like is the Respondus Lockdown Browser. And the short of it is they can only take the test. They can't go look at Word documents. They can't surf the web. They can't find other things that may allow them to get information to help them do better on the test than they would with what they've retained already. The other things are kind of normal ones. If you're going to have a due date that you want to have them take a test, it's that same calendar format. Maybe I want them to have it by next Friday, and I can always set the time and date. If I want it at 5 o'clock, that's an easy one to do. And we just punch the time in. You can have the test available from a certain date to ending at a certain date. So maybe I want to turn it on this Monday, and then I'm going to have it turn off on that Saturday. Now it's due on the 27th, but maybe it gives me a little flexibility if I want to add that in there. So I've got my test pretty much created as far as the shell of the test. And so I'm going to go ahead and save that to make sure that I've got my information the way I want. Once I've got it saved, I can come in here and I can look at how I've set it up, what they can access. And the biggest one for me is I'll forget the access code. As a teacher, I can come in and see this code, and then I can give it to my students when I'm ready for them to test. But the one thing I really need to add is some questions to this test. So I'm going to go ahead and edit it, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to add some questions. Now, as a default, when you come in, you have the Details tab up here. I'm going to go ahead and click the Questions tab, and this will allow me to add questions to my pool for this test. And I could pull in other questions that exist in other tests, but we're going to keep it kind of simple and just go with adding new questions for right now. The new questions, you give your question a title. You can call it number 1, you can call it a long name or anything you happen to have. I'm going to use just a simple title, I guess, so I can remember what the question's about, because I may want to mix up my pool later, but you can do it any way you like. Then question types. We have a lot to choose from. Most of these are anything you've done in your regular tests in your classroom or in other test banks you may have gotten from publishers. These are going to match up. So multiple choice, true and false, fill in the blanks, multiple blanks, multiple answers. Everything pretty much can be automatically graded except for when you start getting down to essay questions and the file upload questions. So it gives you a wide range. You can mix and match. You don't have to pick just one. Anything that's got an answer you put in directly, it's automatically going to grade for you, and that's a great time saver. But I like to throw in some essays and a few multiple blank ones to kind of mix up my tests. Another option you'll notice is the points. We can have each question be weighted differently or have different points. And so when you're putting your test together, this is kind of a nice way to mix and match the level of difficulty that you might have for some of these. But I'm going to leave everything pretty much simple as it has been. And I'm going to enter my first question. Now this is a made-up question for sure. How many dogs do I have? I'm sure you're all wondering how many I have. So I'm going to scroll down, and the correct answer is always at the top, and you simply just type it in. I only have one dog at the moment, but I'm going to put some other answers in here. And as you remember, we chose it to shuffle it, so these will be out of order, and it won't be exactly just 1, 2, 3, 4. If I want to add additional answers, maybe I want to have 5 of them, I can put that in. And then when I'm done, I'm going to update that question. And it always puts it up here at the top, and as you add questions, it'll add new little rows in here for each question. So let's add one more question. So just go to new question, and I'm going to call this one cats. And I'm going to leave it as a multiple choice, or maybe I'll do a true and false. And I'll make it 1 point. Let's see here. So I'm going to scroll down, and I have my true answers. The first one comes up as true as a default, and you'll see an arrow on the left. This is how you set the correct answer. In this case, I do not have 3 cats. So I'll say it's false. No, I do not have 3 cats. And I can choose to put a right answer if they choose it. And then once I'm done, I scroll down to the bottom, update my question, and now I have my other question. In this case, I'm going to make it a really short quiz, and I'm going to go ahead and save and publish it. And so now it's going to be out there for students. You can give it a quick preview and see what it would look like. So pretty normal test that you might find in an online setting. And as they go through and they click them, it's just pretty much radio buttons that they're choosing, and they would submit it to be graded. All right, and then you can see my results. I got 2 points there. So, all right, now I've got my quiz out, but how do students get access to it? The easiest way is to go put it in a module. In this case, I'm going to go to modules, and I've got them broke up here, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 5, but I don't have a week 6. So I'm going to add a module, and I'm just going to call it week 6. Add my module, scroll to the bottom, and you'll notice for the modules there's a little circle with a line through it. That means it's not published yet. Students won't see it, so we have to publish it. Now we've got that circle with green check mark, and I'm going to add that quiz to the module. So I go up here where the add is, click the drop down arrow and choose quizzes. There's my week 6 quiz. Click on it and then add that item to the week 6 module. Now it's available and ready for students to take this quiz. Once you've got your module created, it automatically adds a column to your grades. So go to your gradebook, And once we come in here, you're going to scroll to the far right. The last column will be the most recent thing you've added. In this case, it's our week 6 quiz. As students take it, it'll automatically grade everything that it can if you've given correct answers, and you'll see a grade or percentage pop up in this column or for each cell. If you have essays or other things that require individual grading, then you can go into here and add a grade for that portion of the test. This saves a lot of time. It makes it easy to grade and keep track. It keeps your test, I think, validity a little safer than even paper tests at some point with all the options that we have. So now that you've got your quiz created, you've got it added to your modules, you're ready to go. So I encourage you to go ahead and try out creating your own quizzes. Go to your course, your sandbox, create a couple quizzes, try the different options, add some modules, put it in there, test it out on your friends. Nobody likes anything more than taking a test. It's a fun way to try out your Canvas course.
I know it does that.